Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, the internet podcast where those of us from the comic book and video game store Level Up Entertainment get together some friends and talk about a different topic every week. This week we're talking about tabletop role-playing again, specifically how we make characters and share some of our favorite character stories. I'm your host Scott, and with me this week I've got Tim.
Hello.
Got Kendall.
Hi there.
And our new friend B.
Hello.
So guys, how long have y'all been playing D&D now? I know I had you on the last episode. We talked about this, Tim, but give people a refresher, even though they should go back and rewatch that now and right now.
They should, because I love talking about D&D.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I did it for a long time.
It was our first 2-hour one, I think.
Yeah. I have been playing for roughly somewhere in the span of a decade. I started in 4E and kept going for some reason. And I primarily play 5E, but we have played Savage Worlds. We have played a few of the different Star Wars versions of Tabletop. And that's pretty much it. It's been primarily D&D.
Yeah. So, what about you, Kendall?
So I started with Pathfinder maybe about 6 or 7 years ago.
It was like when you moved to Philly, though, right?
It was. I've been in Philly almost 10 years, sir.
Time goes by so fast, man.
Yeah. 10 years in May. But yeah. In Philly, I started with some folks I met out here. And then played a campaign for a while, and the DM was over it pretty much and killed almost everybody off. And then didn't play for a while, and then started up a couple years ago, playing pretty heavily.
So you're DMing now for the first time, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And B, how about you?
I have been playing D&D and tabletop role-playing games for about 3 years, but I have known about D&D since I was very, very young, like 5.
Mm-hmm. So what made you finally take the plunge and give it a shot yourself?
I will be that person. It was the Adventure Zone balance. I got really into it, and I listened almost. I started when they were on. Started like 3 years ago, and I started listening, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is really cool." And I went to my dad, who has been very vocal about how much he likes D&D. Like, we have the animated series on CD, not CD, DVD. That's the one. Mm-hmm. And we were both devastated to realize that, like, literally a year before, he had gotten rid of all of his D&D handbooks.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, so I used to play, I learned middle school, I learned on 2nd edition. So I remember Thaco and all that nonsense. But I used to play real heavily in high school. I mostly played with my Boy Scout troop because we were all hanging out all the time anyway. And then I played a bunch in college, and then you become an adult and you just don't have time. And then this year, because of the pandemic, a bunch of friends started playing. Actually, we started playing in person, but then, we kind of moved to doing it online. And then another one of our regulars was like, "Hey, I'm starting a game online. We're going to do it over on Fantasy Grounds on the computer." And like, "Would you like to play?" I was like, "Yeah, I would." So, and then I saw on Reddit, I think it was like looking for group, that you posted, "Hey, I'm looking for people for this game." And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So I'm playing in 3 games this year. So I have a bunch of characters I'm playing right now, and we'll get into them in a bit. But I got inspired to get back into it again because of the Adventure Zone. I just really enjoyed listening to them play it. And I was like, man, I miss doing this stuff and getting involved. And I know so many people that play it, and it's just like, I should make more of an effort to have us play. And I know we've tried a couple of us have tried over the years to play different games. I've got this Ghostbusters one. We've played Game Zero where we make characters and then we just never played it because
Yep,
it's so difficult
rolled
to schedule
stats.
time. Yeah, it's just so difficult to schedule time. But now that we do things over Zoom and whatnot, it's really easy because you don't have to travel anywhere. You can kind of just get together for like an hour or two, and it's not that hard. It's a little bit easier to carve out a piece of your week for it. But let's get into for the topic of the episode, we're talking about characters. Like, what's your guys' character creation process? Like, what do you think of first? What do you like to do first, and like, how do you try to go about doing it? I'll start with you, Kendall.
Starting with me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like no matter what happens, really, like whenever someone's like, starting a campaign, you interested? Everyone's always like, oh, well, like, what are you thinking of playing? What are you thinking of playing? So yeah, I kind of just like, depending on who has like a solid idea first, you kind of don't want to repeat anything and also like fill out the role. But
yeah,
I try to think of my actual character.
Yeah.
Above that.
So you think of character before you think like what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about you, Tim? You do the same thing?
I am way less polite. Yeah. When we sit down to make a character, I pick I generally focus on one thing, like one aspect of the character. I don't care who is doing what else. I don't aim to fill roles or anything like that. I'm just like, what is the one thing I want to make this character around?
Mm-hmm.
And then I flesh out the rest from there. So like, if I want someone who has like a broken past for some reason, or I want someone who fights a specific kind of monster or hunts something, has some sort of background, I tend to focus on that and build the person around that aspect. Like, why would they do that? How do they do that? And then try and fit a class in after the fact.
All right. And how about you, B?
I am very focused on aesthetics, always and forever. So if I'm being honest, it's very shallow. I will think about what race I want to play first. And then I especially when it comes to elves, I will think, how can I twist this? And I normally play, my favorite thing to do is to take an elf or like a dwarf or something and be like, I'm going to make a character that nobody would suspect. I lost my train of thought. Oh God.
It's fine.
That like nobody would. I play very pretty girls normally, so I just make a really pretty girl, and then I pick a class, and then I come up with some sort of either very interesting or very tragic backstory. Usually very complicated with lots of long names.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, I have a theme.
Say what I used to do back in the day is like, I think of the character more as their stats first, and just like, what kind of spells do I want to do? Like, how much of a badass do I want to be? And then like not play them at all, like as a character. But now I've discovered as an adult, more matured role player, I really like the character more. So what I've been trying to do is come up with like interesting twists on stuff and then come up with stuff in the background. But one trick I like to use is I like to keep big parts of my background kind of vague. I use that as a tool to give to the DM. So that way they can kind of fill in things. Like, for example, in the game I'm playing with B, my character all of a sudden started doing was a sorceress, but like all of a sudden started doing wild surges. And I don't know why. I'm letting them figure out why. For me, so that way I'm surprised with the character as well. But like that, so that my character's impetus for going out in the world adventures is to cure that. I basically kind of made myself be exiled from the world, and then I really find the character's details in the play, which we'll get into the character specifically, but that character really came to life as I played him. Another character I'm playing right now is a Gnome Barbarian. just because I thought it would be really funny to have a really smashy character be like I designed him as a tiny Jason Statham. And my DM was very cool about letting me have fist weapons and not giving me AC, so it doesn't count against me not wearing armor. I just want to bunches of punches. But the way I set up that character is I kind of have to shift his personality right now, because I made him true neutral, where he just does not care about anything, and like his contract with my party has been fulfilled, and I'm like, he would just leave and not ever talk to you guys ever again. So I'm kind of transitioning to be more of like a Ron Swanson-y type than just that, like that kind of neutral, where he still kind of cares about the people he's with. But
as long as you feel like the character would go that way, that's fine.
Yeah,
yeah, if you don't, it is. I know it's a faux pas to say, but it is okay for you to be like, he wanders off into the sunset.
Yeah, I was kind of like, my character really wouldn't do this, but it's also the part of the thing is like, I want to make sure everyone's having fun too. Like, I don't want to just be like, well, I'm done. I was actually talking about, I like playing my character Chris, that my Surge character so much that I talked about. My DM was like, hey, if Pip, my gnome, leaves, it's like I might kind of, because I already have that character sheet, I might just slide him over here. I would change certain things about their backstory, just because I'm playing in that campaign with an 8-year-old as one of our players, and they have a very, very tragic past, and I kind of don't want to get into that. They're also discovering their sexuality, and it's like, I should probably not do that in front of an 8-year-old. But I made a very conscious decision with her, because like half of our group in that is ace. And the other guys playing their character asexual, which is fine. But I was like, I kind of always do that. Let me go the other route, and I made them pan. So it's been kind of fun exploring that realm, where they're kind of learning that about themselves. So because of that, I made them from a very like cloistered background where they didn't really get a chance to explore that kind of stuff. So that's been that's a big tangent I went on there, but that's sort of like, I like to come up with like a twist on a character. The other one I've played this year is a bard, but really I'm playing a rogue. They just present as a bard as a cover for being a thief. So that one was a lot of fun to play. I was trying to keep that secret from the table. But then when we switched to Zoom because of the pandemic, it was taking too long to do like my secret sneak attacks and things. So it's just like, it's just going to be easier if I just kind of like let the cat out of the bag and say it. Cause I would text our DM back and forth about like the secret thief things I was doing, which Tim was playing in that game. So Tim, I stole a whole bunch of stuff before the party got to it. So
bro, I'm playing a turtle who is very low intelligence. I trade in rocks, so
beautiful.
So those take whatever you want. I don't.
So those are the characters. So those characters we're playing together in that one, which we haven't, because of school and stuff coming back on. We kind of fallen off our weekly sessions on that, which is fine. We'll get back to it. I do want to get back to him at some time. I really like that character, even though like the first time I got hit, I got completely annihilated by a dragon's breath weapon, and my character, if we're playing the game completely by the rules, should be irredeemably dead.
Yes.
But your wife was generous enough as our DM to let me bring him back to life. But that all right. So with that, let's get into some character stories that we've had. So Tim, you can tell us a little bit about your turtle character if you'd like, since we kind of broached him a little bit.
He is he's about 25. He just became virile. So he is in search of a mate to procreate a species. He does not understand what that means fully. He also doesn't really understand other races' gender.
Yeah, so he's been hitting on everything.
Yes.
Very slowly.
Yeah, he tends to talk very slowly and elaborate, and luckily the table finds it enjoyable and not annoying.
I love it. It's one of my favorite characters I've played with.
Yes. But I give away gold. I do not take any from when we find anything like that. I tend to just pick up rocks and use them.
Another player has kind of adopted your character to make sure you have like food and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, I just eat grass and vegetables and just wander off. I sleep outside.
Yeah. You just walked away one time when we were doing watch.
Yep. Yeah.
And since we mentioned the Adventure Zone, that campaign we're playing is Fandelver, which is what the original like story arc is based on. So it's funny that playing that, I'm like, oh, I kind of know all the things that we need to do, because I just listened to it. But it's been fun like replaying because your character brings a different flavor to it. It's very different, and we're playing it a little bit more seriously than they do. Like, there's no character named Barry Blue Jeans. In that we actually went with his real name, Yimik or whatever.
Sildar
or Sildar,
Yeah,
whatever.
Sildar.
Something Sildar, something.
All right, well, yeah, because I think they were like, oh, go to Goofy Fantasy. And it was like, well, we'd be happier if I named him Barry Blue Jeans. That name stuck, and he became one of the most important characters in the entire campaign.
I remember exactly where I was when that happened.
Yeah. I love the Adventure Zone. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen to it, you should definitely listen to the Balance arc.
I have not.
Yeah, I know, but you listen to Critical Role, right?
I'm still,
yeah,
after 3 years trying to catch up on Critical Role. Yeah.
That's the only reason I haven't started. It's just too much. It's like One Piece. I just can't. There's too much of it.
I get really into Critical Role, and then they have combat for an hour and a half, and then I say, oh yeah, that's right. That's why okay. I'm just gonna put you down.
Yeah,
I enjoy both. I definitely enjoy their role play more, but I like watching them fight because I like watching half of the people there not fully understand what to do.
Yeah.
So
Taliesin Jaffe is cool.
Yes. Yeah.
So Kendall, how about you? You got any cool characters you'd like to bring to the table here?
Oh, dang, it's hard to pick one.
Well, like, so you're DMing right now.
We got time.
I know you've got some cool characters that are playing in your game right now. Like, I know your Warlock character you had to do some special stuff with, right? Your Warlock player.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, the Warlock player, he started as a bard, and then just the player was feeling a little inadequate in battle. So, and he had told me, like, right as like a little bit before we were beginning to play for the night. So I just had to like wing a whole like demon pact or patron pact, whatever, like into the session. That was a lot of fun. As far as my character, I guess the character I have the most fun role playing is my wizard named Silverbeard. He's just like an old man, hermit background. He's real dirty, and he's searching for his daughter Sylvia Silverbeard. And his only clue, because I was just kind of like winging it a lot with him, I just told the party my daughter was abducted by Cthulhu's and just like left it at that. And they're like, what are Cthulhu's? Like, they're Cthulhu's. And so, yeah, it's fun. The DM like drops some hints as to like what's going on with her. Since he's an old man, I play him as a bit prejudiced. Like he thinks elves are like tricky, and he doesn't trust much. But as other characters from other races like do him a solid, he's slowly coming around.
Okay.
One of the people in our main campaign is a hobgoblin, and they are typically notorious for hating elves. So he embraces that to a T.
Nice.
And it's pretty incredible. And actually to see him actually trying to evolve it as like we've interacted with elves and had them help us and seen one stronger than him, and he's like, I don't even understand that. So I think that's a nice touch of like showing how a character can evolve.
Yeah, I like to think a broad stroke character arc. So my thing with Christelle, the character I'm playing in B's campaign, is they started off extremely unsure of themselves, really timid, and they're becoming much more confident as we go. And then I discovered all these other things I want them to kind of go through and do. As I decided at the very last minute they were transgender, and that I discovered through gameplay that they were going to be pansexual, and kind of like awaken all these different aspects of themselves. And basically, like, because they got exiled, like, they're kind of, I would say the theme of our campaign is love. Like, I kind of have this found family now. They're in a relationship with one of the other players. They kind of adopted this character, this one NPC, as like a new little sister.
Surprise adoption.
Yeah. I mean, I did steal her from her wedding, and then I wrote their parents are like, we're not giving her back until we cure her lycanthropy.
It was a consensual kidnapping.
Yeah, she wanted us to. We hatched a whole scheme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Child wanted to come with them. Pinky
Oh, she's a child.
promise.
She's over 100. It's fine. Because
She's 120.
Yeah, but it's no longer
A
kidnapping.
fresh-
It's just
yeah.
it's
Fresh
helping them on a
120.
trip. Yeah.
So it turns out she's was cursed by her stepfather's like jilted ex-lover to become like some sort of lycanthrope. So we don't know if she's going to turn into like a werewolf or something. But like, what was it? They were trying to break some curse. They thought they had to marry her off.
Okay,
Right?
okay. So
Yeah.
what happened is it's the Levine family. Vincent Levine is a big jerk. He left Sonia for his current wife, Luna, whom he married for money. There was a big party. Sonia came over and was like, "Hey, you're a jerk," and tried to curse him to bring like unending shame to the family. Sonia's a really bad mage, and 100% misses and curses their child, and ran away for 20 years, and they locked up their kid for 20 years. And they figured that the way to break the curse was to get her. It's really hard to explain
Yeah.
in my head.
I'm so glad you're here. 'Cause I was
Basically,
gonna
they
sound
tried
like
to
a
marry her
crazy
off
person. Yeah.
before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were trying to marry her off before the end of the year to a very nice tiefling boy named Yareth, whom got jilted.
So part of the scheme is because we're both elves, is we basically did a switcheroo in the middle of it. So I was actually at the altar, and we didn't know if I was going to say I do or don't, and I didn't know
Because he was
until
rich.
yeah, and I didn't know until because my character, part of my backstory is I was very poor, and he was rich and apparently like kind of nice looking. So I was like, but I also, it turns out at the moment I was like, well, as a player, I don't want to have a husband. I didn't want to drag around because I left it as I do and then ellipses and then I let it sit for a minute because we play in Discord, so it's all text. So I was kind of hoping that it would have been like really like, oh my god, what are they gonna do? But then I said not, and then I cast a spell and like flew away. But we got
Fun. That was
we got her
interesting.
out of there. One of our other party members was like got on as a job as one of the guards, and they kind of helped me escape. But it was a lot of fun. So then we had to travel from Neverwinter to Waterdeep to find Sonia. That's what we're doing right now, because we discovered like the only way to really break the curse is have her do it, because none of us are equipped for that at all.
Yeah, not really. Yeah,
So
no.
that's what we're in the middle of doing right now. They just gave us a big list of things we need to go get, and we need to go get them. But I feel really guilty because my character, before we left, they use a crossbow instead of magic because they're afraid of their surges, because unpredictable things happened. And if I roll a 100, it's the DM's discretion of who this happens to. But essentially, a character explodes. So I had what made them like have to be exiled from town is they blew up a kid. So they definitely don't want to use their magic. But I got a couple of silver bolts made just in case we can't cure her and she turns into a monster like and attacks us. Unfortunately, on the road, like my character really came to love this character and like I said, basically adopt her. And now I'm feeling really guilty that those are there, and I'm really afraid they're going to find them in my bag.
They have had a few. Her name is Talia. Talia has had a few opportunities to find this, and every time I roll, I forget that she is just no brain cells.
Yeah.
Really dumb. I love her, but also
she's a great character, and like we kind of basically made her Like you didn't expect us to have to like make her be part of the party, right?
No, I expected this little edgy, angsty teenager, like to just sit there and be like angsty and edgy. And then you guys like made it a family, and I was like, oh no, this is adorable.
Yeah, we kind of willed her into existence. Like, so you had to
Now
actually
I have to reward roleplay.
Yeah. Oh my god! And speaking of rewarding roleplay, we just met the Sonya character. I tried to convince them. I was very blunt because they seemed like someone who doesn't care about small talk. I rolled a persuasion. I think I got like a 10. One of our other characters,
you got
like,
an 11.
I got an 11. One of our other players was like horrified that I was so blunt. They're like trying to be really smooth about it, and they rolled a 10. And then our last one did a really good in character thing, and you did not make them roll, and I was so mad.
It was a whole paragraph, my dude.
Well, like
it was
they
a whole
appealed to like them
and
as a,
people were crying.
Yeah. They appealed to them as a mother, and I was like, man, out of character speak like part. I was like, I think I'm gonna cry in real life.
Yeah, I realized Scott brought this up. I have a tendency to make characters with huge families, and I was like, why did I do this to myself? They canonically have 7 kids. I have to play all of these children. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And you have to remember all their names. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. It's fine. I didn't give the last one a really short name because I gave the other one a really long name. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what's the little drow's name?
Yekaterina.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I saw that. I was like, I'm not gonna remember that. But now they have
Russian.
Yeah, but and there's a Fearbolg in the family too, right? And their name's Faye.
The Fearbolg is Faye.
Yeah, I can remember that.
Is Cinderin.
Yeah.
There's another drow whose name you did not get, despite intimidating her into an almost panic attack.
Well, I didn't intimidate her. To be fair, I did.
She was like that before you met her.
Yeah.
And the little one is Yekaterina.
I mean, we should be honest. The other 2 players are like Dragonborn, and like they're big and scary. Even though Jasira is like a marshmallow. But
Jasira is a pink marshmallow, and Zarina is a just armor, spiky.
Yeah.
I like the idea of playing against that though. Like I played a Dragonborn who was an assassin. Well, that was in 4 when that existed. But he was lawful good, and he was super chill and was very nice to everybody and tried to be polite to everyone.
The one time I tried playing Dragonborn was in 3rd edition in high school. And I was like, wow, I can be a Dragonborn. And I was like, I'm also going to be an assassin, and he's going to use a chain whip with a hook at the end and just be this really badass character. And like, I don't even remember what his name was.
Nope. I was like, I want a giant nice guy.
Yeah.
Instead of like the stoic silent type.
But while we're speaking of Jasira, that's the character my character is like dating now. Part of the reason I decided to be Pan is my character in the beginning is very reserved and shy, and she's very confident and sexy and like full of herself. I was like, oh, maybe funny if I'm kind of like eyeing her up a little bit. But then she dumped on the road. We were kind of dumping our characters' backstories on each other, and I didn't know what hers was, like legitimately. Where like her, because she's also a warlock, but like her dark patron thing is like he murdered her brother, right?
Oh,
and
it's fascinating.
Why don't you tell it? You know it better than me.
It is. He sent me this whole paragraph. He's like, oh, yeah, here's her backstory. And I was like, oh my God. So essentially, she was raised in a noble family and was sort of spoiled and like, very, very ignorant of the world around her. And then like on her 18th birthday, when they came of age, she also had a brother who they were training to be very worldly and like be a great warrior. And on her 18th birthday, they go downstairs in the basement, and it turns out that the family made a pact with a demon, in exchange for their firstborn, that the family could be very rich and wealthy and have high standing, but they had twins. So they were raising her brother to be the demon's, like chosen warrior. And the demon was like, oh, you want me to pick him? Oh, it would be such a shame if I just murdered him, and this one's my favorite now. And she kind of really hates her patron, but he's magic. So he's magic, and he accepts food as an offering. So
yeah. So because once I heard that story, I was like, oh man, because I'd kind of told my story before then, because like my character's really down in the dumps. She was originally very depressing, which is fine because I wanted to move to a position where she wasn't, and I've kind of gotten there. But after I felt like that character barred their soul, I kind of pulled them aside the next day in game. And I was just like, hey, since we're being honest with each other, I this is where I've been feeling. I don't know what I'm doing with these feelings. I've never felt like this before with another female. And then she kisses her and comes back, and then like, I've been feeling the same way about you. So I was like, oh, I was just wanted to come out. I didn't want to start a whole thing. So we ended up having unprotected relationship. And then you started rolling some dice. And I'm like, uh-oh.
It's always great when the DM rolls some dice.
Congratulations, you have the clap.
Yeah. So so they just started exhibiting morning sickness. Our characters don't know yet, but
they don't know it's morning sickness.
Yeah, they don't know it's morning sickness. It only happened once so far. They rolled a 1 to see how sick they got, so they were like very sick.
Poor thing.
But I happen to know because once I started realizing what your die rolls were, I know it's going to be a clutch of 3. So I think the jokes, I'm going to name them Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Or Jet something and Turbo.
Oh, it's Jet, Rebel, and Turbo.
Jet, Rebel, and Turbo.
Yeah. That's a new DuckTales reference. But so originally I was going to be I was very like, oh God, I don't want to have kids and like all this stuff. I was like, it's going to weigh down. But in talking to you and stuff, I'm like, I'm actually really excited. I kind of have this whole home life thing planned out. Because since again, we mostly do role playing and not so much combat and stuff. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but how are you going to have a whole home life thing when you're out doing adventures?
I don't know. We'll see.
It is
I will
the
say
bane of a character.
Neverwinter has more than enough adventures within the city.
Oh yeah, like I've been talking with B and like I get really ahead of myself because also we talked about occasionally like maybe one of us would do like a guest DM situation so that way they can play. And I came up with a couple of scenarios where like my character can sort of be sidelined. So we might do them once we finish up this current storyline. I really want I have a couple of us have like ideas for like Halloween, like non-canon adventures. And I really want to do one, probably this recording is just about to be Halloween. So we might do a little bit on Halloween, see what everyone else's schedule's like. But I'm really looking forward to doing that one, especially since we know a candy maker in Neverwinter. So I'm like, oh, it works perfectly into like a trick-or-treating kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Again, because it's mostly role-playing, like I don't mind not doing the combat and adventures. But
which is good, because I'm great at those. Combat, that thing that you do.
Yeah. But B, what's
some crunching numbers?
Yeah. What are some of the characters you've played over the years?
I have played Frosira Honeypot, Frosira Don't Call Me Honeypot, and Valentina Lavinia Augustcomb, which are my 2 most recent characters and my 2 favorite characters. Mm-hmm. Valentina is a rogue who comes from a very large, like her father is a baron and they're trying to get higher up in society. Her family is entirely obsessed with appearance and decorum and being proper. And she does not care about that at all. She wants to have she wants to escape and run away and live in a cottage and get married, which is essentially what happens. She is an elf. Everybody in her family is an elf, but she's very short and she has very curly hair and she's very round and everybody keeps assuming that she's a halfling and it's very fun. And she wears bright pink. She is a rogue that wears bright pink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she at one point had +8 deception. So
pretty good at lying there.
Wow.
Really good at lying.
And I know where Frosira's story winds up because it turns out in our game you made them settle down and now they own a bakery. They stopped adventuring.
They own a bakery. It's the Pint of Love. It's Frosira, their 4 children, and her wife Amara, who is a half-orc, and they're beautiful.
Yeah, I would say their one kid is gender neutral, and because my character was having issues with gender, like they don't identify with the gender that they are, it was kind of my way to explore it. And then I inadvertently asked them on a date and I kind of had to break their heart a little bit.
Just a little breaking
Yeah, I
of
felt
the
really
hearts.
bad about doing that, but I was also like, the character was not in a position to do that stuff.
They'll never forget, man.
Yeah.
They'll be there forever now.
But I'm glad we became friends with them because they were also our way into the wedding that we had to crash because they made the cake. Which I forget how we wound up with them, but
big bad guy, surprise at the end. Maybe courted love.
No, I think I set it up that my character's like arch nemesis is going to be their ex-fiance, who after they transitioned like dumped them like really hard because that was disgusting. So my character hates their body because of him. But the character we're dating now has kind of gotten over that. And my character's a lot more happy and confident. And that's reflecting on the fact that I feel like I take up the lion's share of the play, and I feel really guilty about that as a player. But yeah, so those are some of the characters we've liked to play. Does anyone else have any ones they want to discuss? I guess I have another one. I've mentioned my Gnome Barbarian. He's kind of fun. He's kind of hard to play because he's so true. He's true neutral. His thing is just like, I kind of found his character a little bit as we played, where he hates like society. He chooses to live apart from that. He thinks it's phony and like he just doesn't buy it. But occasionally he has to go in town and deal with people and get supplies and things. So he mostly lives off the land as a trapper, and then got kind of conscripted by our cleric to go on the Ghosts of Saltmarsh adventure because it starts, it's a prepackaged campaign. So now that that's kind of over, I kind of needed a reason. I was like, well, he's done, so he's just going to leave. Excuse me one sec.
Dogs.
Yeah, that part out. So I need to kind of, because like I said earlier, like he would just leave and that would be the end of it. But I kind of want to stick with him and change him a little bit. Maybe the party members are starting to grow on him. Our cleric has taken to like mother henning him, much to his annoyance. But the way we've been playing that, like almost every single encounter, someone has died. So we kind of keep saving each other's asses. So we kind of, I don't know, but like, so where we are, the salt marsh is like kind of like the last frontier, but like the kingdom's kind of moving in and like gentrifying it. So I'm kind of playing as like, hey, my character doesn't like that, like because there's like a political thing in town, like some people are fighting against that and some people aren't, and we're kind of getting stuck in the middle, and like my character hates like a lot of this council, and like so I'm kind of getting into that. Like I said, I'm making him a little bit more Ron Swanson-esque, so that kind of will help keep him interesting in a way. So like I said, sometimes the character is different versus how you envision them and how you wind up playing them.
Yeah, character should evolve. The assassin I had talked about ended up when we switched, because this is the 6-year campaign that Jim ran.
God, yeah, you guys ran that for so long.
Yeah, may it rest in peace.
Yeah.
It started in 4. When we moved over, assassin didn't exist in 5. So I had to change him to a paladin. He found Ione, actually. And you kind of have to evolve them into something a little bit more. So he became doing good for the sake of helping the world instead of just helping the person in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's neat when you get those opportunities, even if they're forced on you, like the switch from 4 to 5. Like that's kind of forced my character to change in that transition, but it ended up for the better because it actually, like, I don't know, helped the character to grow. And
yeah, that's cool. It's cool when you can get a narrative justification for it.
Yeah.
I think it makes the whole experience for everyone a lot richer. I really enjoy that. See, Kendall, you have any other characters?
Right now I'm playing a Tabaxi Monk. Her name's Hummingbird. So I'm playing her in Curse of Strahd, which I don't know if anyone's played that.
The closest thing. The closest thing. Wait.
You're playing a Tabaxi Monk, so you run 200 feet and around.
Less. Oh Lord.
It's like 45, 55 at the, I don't know how.
Yeah, but then
She's
you get the
pretty
Tabaxi
fast.
double, and like you can
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
step of the
it's-
wind. And,
So you're playing Chitara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's real cool. I love her. Yeah, her like backstory is like, because I think for a background, yeah, that background's a thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
it is.
I DM. I don't even know what I'm talking
What is a character? Who
Yeah.
they?
What's a
Um,
dice? Yeah.
So yeah, her background, I chose archaeologist,
Mhm.
and I had like her backstory is that she kind of trained in a monastery, but was like a little too curious about the outside world. But because we're in the hellscape that Strahd takes place, very depressing campaign setting.
It's a good time of year for it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
In the one B, I guess this will be a spoiler if we ever do this one the Halloween campaign I want to do. It's going to take place in Craving Loft instead of Ravenloft.
Ah,
They're going to kidnap the candy maker. That's what we're going there to do. To save
Very
them.
on the nose.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, Kendall, continue with your Tabaxi Monk.
yeah, I mean, you know, her backstory doesn't really play into anything that's like going on, but you know, it's fun to play like somebody who's like as interested in the world, especially as a player who like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So it's a fun way to roll that into the character. And she just like, it's hard and it's fast. She's cool.
She's almost literally a beast.
Almost.
I like that you took the specific background but kind of catered it to that character too. I feel like a lot of people lose that in creating a character. They try and stick to like they're out digging their whole lives and being an archaeologist, and not like they're just out exploring and being curious about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, she has to be adventuring for some reason, you know?
Yeah, it's like this character I want to make. It was inspired by Blathers because one was playing D&D really heavy earlier in the years when Animal Crossing came out, and we got locked down, so I had nothing else to do but think about D&D characters. Where I want to make an Al Aarakocra who's like a gentleman, like explorer. I kind of mixed a bunch of Theodore Roosevelt into him, but there's like no existing class that like I think fits. Like the closest is Ranger, but like he's, you know, he's kind of like an Indiana Jones-esque archaeologist, but like he more is like looking for like lost civilizations and like rare animals, and like brings them back to like a menagerie or a natural history musician. I could do that. I don't know, but like fortunately B lets me get away with a lot of stuff in their game.
I let a lot of people get away with a lot of stuff.
So you basically let me make this character exist as an NPC that my character idolizes because my character wanted to grow up and be an adventurer. And that's what they were going to do until their wild surges started happening. And like now they can't control their magic. And like they kind of like lost all of like their sense of identity and their home world and stuff. So they kind of were forced to be out on their own and make their own way. But so I make it so they make like a lot of pulp, like dime store novels and stuff. Like, oh, I'm really into these. Like I'm trying to get one really serious paladin like is like so serious and like doesn't believe in like, why do you read books that aren't like historical events and things? I'm like, oh, read all these things. It's fun. Like I made a fake Harry Potter book that I was reading and like, I'm like, you should read this. It's like about how being a hero and overcoming things.
I had a physical reaction when like Christiel was like, oh, wow, you should read these novels. I think you might really like them. And Zarina was like, those are very childish. We are adults. And I was like, oh.
She's like, well, not only were you adults, you were like 130 years old. Like,
yeah. Zarina is arguably the oldest person in the campaign, despite being like 30 and everybody else being like 35 to 100.
Yeah. But you let me, like, he literally wrote the book on monsters, so I have a monster manual that he wrote in the game. So like one of the things we need to do is like when we were researching lycanthropy, that's when we found out what the curse was, is like hey, here's the entry on werewolves, and I kind of pointed out to the other group was like how you beat him is like silver and stuff. Like, listen, we might have to prepare for the worst here. But like now we have to we need for the cure, part of it is we need feathers of an owlbear. So we're going to the library to like find all of these different things. I was like, hey, can I just look in this book that I have and find out about owlbear, everything I need for owlbears? I'm like, yeah, we have that. Just roll, to see if it has the relevant information, and lo and behold, it did. So
It was basically, yeah, you have this entry on owlbears in your monster manual already. I'm not going to pick and choose things. I'm just going to send you the link to the page in the book.
Yeah.
You play a benevolent god. I don't believe that.
I am a benevolent god. It is quite the juxtaposition to my boyfriend, who is also a DM, who can. Oh, he wanted to do the one where there's like he plays a lot of the really intense prepackaged ones. We almost die a lot.
Yeah, that's
he shows me no mercy despite being his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the yes and the no but, because it plays into building a story. But I like to create that a little bit of not fear, but like that anxiety of like, this is going to be a hard fight. This is going to not be an easy skill challenge. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm very torn in that. Like, I want people to have a good time, but also I want you to be a little scared at the back end.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're still level 3. We're essentially sort of still on an extended first adventure in that game. So I don't think we've really encountered any danger, unless that Sonya character was going to murder us, which our one player was really afraid it was going to happen. But I told B privately, like, listen, if this doesn't work out, I'm coming here in the middle of the night and I'm burning all my spell slots and blowing up their like house, and it's just really violent and really messy.
Oh my god, Christiel! Oh my god! So they try and get into the house, and
oh yeah, they try to kick it down the door.
So there's 7 kids, and they all, they're all scattered. The youngest one has been put in charge of the door because Sonya hates visitors that aren't her children, and the youngest one is always in charge of the front door in case people come by, and she's supposed to make sure that people that Sonya doesn't want to come in don't come in. So they, like, the door like creaks open into this creepy manner, and they're like, hello, and the 2 dragonborns get fireball.
They get with the fireballs right immediately.
And then the door's closed, and Christiel's like, okay, I'm about to bust this door down. Let's go.
So I got a 0 because of my negative modifier and strength. I just tried to kick it in. And then
door kicks you.
Yeah, I got knocked over. It was really bad.
Yeah.
And then I pulled out my
by a 10-year-old
spell, and everyone stopped me because they thought I was going to murder this kid. I was like, I was just going to knock the door down. I wasn't going to hurt the kid. Like, that's a big part of my backstory is I killed a kid, and like I don't want to like hurt anyone.
See, as that non-benevolent DM, I'd have been like, that kid was hiding behind that door, and you kicked it down.
Well, no, the kid is the reason the door. So yeah. Christiel rolled a 0.
I got a 0.
Yeah, essentially what happened is just they go to kick the door in, but as you do, the door is yanked open very quickly. You fall, and then they slam the door shut again.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very embarrassing.
Yeah, really embarrassing.
So my character's kind of not like this kid. Like, everyone's trying to like play nice, and like, oh, it's really cool that you could use fireball, but it's also because my character was like a sorcerer's prodigy. I'm like, that's not so hard. I'm like, that's a cantrip, whatever. Like, I'm not like impressed by
firebolt.
Yeah, whatever.
That makes more sense. At level 3, getting fireballed would be bad.
Yeah. I was like, die?
Yeah, like, I don't think they got any. I don't think they had any damage because I don't think they had any damage because they're both red dragonborn, so they have fire resistance. I think they took like 1 hit point.
Yeah, they got 3, but Serena gets half damage.
Yeah. They both get half damage from it because they're both red dragons.
Yeah, just okay. Their response was, "Oh, that was very rude of you, small child, and I'm going to bill you for my dry cleaning."
Yeah, so
Jasira's a rich girl.
Yeah. But she's fun to play against. But it's funny in that campaign, since both our Dragonborn players, because we play on Discord, they're both in the UK. So I give Dragonborn characters British accents in it. For that, like, as my nod to that. And that to me is a level of fun that I have. I did tell them I do that. They're like, okay, that's weird. Because they're definitely not playing them with like accents. But I also said since Elvish is my character's natural tongue, like maybe they have a very, very faint one. And I was like, probably sounds French. That sounds like what Elvish would be like to me. Would be like equivalent to French language. So but yeah, man, stupid kid, this stupid door made me so mad.
Oh, she's fun.
I was gonna smash the window, but they stopped me. I was like, well, So basically, my characters like don't get in the way of the people I care about because I don't have like it's all they have is found family now. And this is not a nice person we were trying to deal with, and they were shutting us out. Although I did kind of explain to them about love at the end of it when they agreed to us, and I think that shut them up because they're bitter and old and mean.
Bitter and old and mean, and their kid was in the room, and Jazira was like, please, as a mother, won't you do this thing for this poor child? She like looks at her kid. I'm like, oh man, great.
That's why you didn't make them roll.
Yeah.
It would have been funny because that was a really good bit of role playing, and then they would have rolled like a 5.
Yeah.
And then we would have
absolutely would have critical failed.
Yeah.
Because that's how the dice are.
Yeah.
There's the occasion where like somebody argues so well that you're just like, nah, man, you said the right thing. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's
and as long as it's in character, not like your charisma is like a 5.
Yeah.
I when I DM, I always try to reward players when they do real role playing. Yeah. Either with like extra XP or not having to do rolls to like for persuasion and stuff.
Yeah. I've tried to make inspiration an actual thing because people forget it exists in D&D.
Inspiration's a great tool. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that like players can share it with each other too. So you can make it so that way like you can make it count when it like needs to, like say someone's in a position where like you're in the position where you have inspiration where it's not gonna be helpful, but if you gave it to this other player, they could literally do this amazing thing and save the day. And like I don't know. I think it's really cool. It's a great thing in 5th edition. I played a lot of editions of D&D. I think 5th is my favorite by far. It has all the strengths and almost none of the weaknesses from past editions.
It definitely is for me, but that's because I only played 4.
Oh, it has a lot of stuff from. It's a lot more like 3 than 4 was, in my opinion. Which 3 was the one I played the most. I'm not a big fan of 1 and 2 or AD&D and 2. But is there any kind of character archetypes or like a character you guys would like to play at some point? I know I have one. I think I've talked about a couple with a couple of you privately, where I'm inspired by Lex Luthor, and like secretly being a lawful evil character, but like I'm presenting as a hero to like society. But really, I'm just kind of amassing more like political power and like fame for myself. And I'm kind of more or less kind of in scripting, even if they don't realize it, the other players like in loyalty, like saving the day and doing things with and for them.
That's like, a very difficult pitch.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that, like they're a paladin or something. But yeah,
you're either gonna be one of the major villains instead.
I'm okay with that ending. Yeah.
Yeah, or B, because they're gonna be like, we're not going with you if you're evil. Get out of here.
I'm not going to be telling people I'm evil. So in our last episode, we talked about evil characters not necessarily being like gotta murder everyone, but like more being like bad.
Yeah.
I think
having ill intention or caring about themselves.
He'd just basically be selfish.
Which can be done, but if at every turn your character is like,
I wouldn't do it at every turn.
We should take that. We should not help them.
No,
they're children. They'll be fine.
No, they need to pretend to
They'll
be.
bounce back.
Yeah. They need
that
to.
Fire won't hurt them.
They need to be a hero. I came up with it because in our campaign, Tim, when we're talking about how incompetent the mayor is, and like we took care of the bandits and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, it would be really funny if I just ran for mayor right now and tried to get him deposed for being incompetent, and like we're kind of installing like one of us. I was like, man, that'd be such a great like kind of secret bad guy thing to do, or like. It was also inspired by your TPK, Kendall, where that town completely got destroyed. I was like, man, it'd be really cool that I could like buy it all up cheap and kind of rebuild it, but then like kind of bring yourself as like the savior, like I rebuilt the town. Like that's where I was like, oh, that might be really fun to kind of play with something like that. I would love to do that at some point in some campaign.
Yeah, it's my point was it is a cool idea, and I like the idea. It's just very hard to pitch in the long term with like however many people you're playing with in the party.
I would have to be the right group.
Yeah.
But is there any like characters like you guys would like to play at some point? Have you thought that much about them in the future?
I actually I have always wanted to do this, and I have yet to find a game in which actually gets off the ground that I will be able to do this. I really just want to play a kid. I have at least 3 characters who are, well, 2 of them actually, who are kids, and I just want to put a kid into a party. They would be very competent. They would just be like a prodigy. One of them, what was I going to say? One of them, a character idea that I had for this was what are the words that I'm trying to say? I'm so sorry. Like 2 years ago, back when I was like just getting started, I met my boyfriend. He was like, yeah, I'm thinking of running Curse of Strahd. And I was like, huh, okay, that would be really cool. And I'd been thinking about characters that I wanted to play. And I ended up coming up with a Druid Dwarf who is like the equivalent of 12 years old in human years. And that never got off the ground, but that did inspire a whole bunch of funny one-off scenarios in which she just goes up to Strahd and it's like, I live here now. And he's like, well, I don't want you to live here. She's like, right, but I'm a kid. You're not going to kill a kid. So I'm just going to live here now. And that was very funny. And that eventually became an NPC in my current campaign, which I don't have a name for. Her name is Nolly.
That's that. Okay.
That's Nolly.
I didn't realize she was from that. So it's as far as I've met them, they are the daughter of the blacksmith, or the weapon shop owner rather.
Yes.
Who I thought was adorable, and I'm going to try to get a part-time job tutoring them in the game.
She's really cute. She's small and tiny and adorable, and you walk into this big weapon shop, and she's like, hello, what can I get for you today?
But she's also really into adventures and adventuring the way my character is, so I kind of had a bond with them.
You guys want that really big sword off the wall? I got to get my dad. I can't pick that up.
Yeah, it was adorable, and I thought I didn't realize they were from like some other thing.
Yes.
But no, that's cool.
Originally from Curse of Strahd. I have always wanted to play a small child, and I have not gotten to. But one day.
It's weird at first. Well, I say small child, but he's a friend of mine in the campaign I run. Plays a 16-year-old rogue who just grew up on a farm and just read, and that's all he does. He's the mastermind rogue. Okay. So he just reads books all day, and that's all he did forever. And that's how he learned thieves' cant, and that's how he learned to steal and to detrap things. But he's 16, so like the first time he killed someone, he's like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting, but it was weird at first because the first instance of combat, it was a bunch of like grown men, and I was like, it feels weird having them beat on like a 16-year-old kid, but I guess
well, haven't you always, you've known 16-year-olds that happens.
If you're a bad person,
listen, dude, teenagers are scary.
Yeah, you do play the villain, so I did, but it felt a little weird.
Yeah, I can see that being uncomfortable in certain situations. Again, it's gonna have to have the right group for it.
Yeah.
You have a character you would try to do sometime that you've never been able to, or like never been able to get off the ground?
Me?
Yeah.
If you look at my D&D Beyond character sheet, I have 500 freaking characters made. But I've always wanted something to do with like Shadow in particular. Like they have a Shadow sorcerer in there, and I love the idea of someone with that like constantly being in the dark, using powers that are exclusively darkness related, but being a good person and seeing that, like using that kind of like loneliness and that prejudgment for that person based on their powers, and having that kind of make him very vulnerable and very closed off to everyone else. And like, I feel like I could do a lot with that character depending on the world. But that's a big one for me that I've worked on a few times and just never fit into the right campaign, because a lot of people want to play like either like the I'm kind of bad necromancer thing, which doesn't really work, or the I'm a lawful good bashy guy.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of find the right crowd when you're playing for it.
Yeah.
So
as long, yeah, I think we mentioned in the other episode too, is like a lot of it comes down to your players, and if you guys have similar play goals. Like my character in B's game, Chris, like probably wouldn't work super well in your guys' game, just because I wouldn't be casting spells and stuff, because that is a character thing. Like they wouldn't, if I do it, like I have a wild search table and it's like wild. So like a lot of weird things will happen with that. Again, it's inspired by the current season of Adventure Zone, where like I think part of it, like he turned into a tree or something for a bit of it. So it's like
he
some of
turned
them are
his
insane.
old headmaster into a catfish.
Yeah, it's a couple of things like that. That was their blowing up
Magic
a kid. So stuff like that I probably wouldn't fit super well, but like if it was a straight role playing one, because again, a lot of things it's just the right character for that group. Whereas like, that barbarian I'm playing is kind of not fitting super well, so I need to kind of adjust him to fit a little bit better. And part of that's just how I play him. So some of that like comes into play. But yeah, a character that's specific, like you might hold off till you get a group that kind of wants to play a character like that. Kendall, is there any characters or character archetype or anything, a race you would like to give a shot at some point?
So every character I played has been like good aligned. And not that I want to play like a crazy murderer or anything. But I do think a fun character would be like playing like a goblin or something, like a typical like, like
monster type, like low level mob.
Yeah, like one of the throwaway monsters, who's just like sick of that life and like kind of wants to like be the leader of their own like group or whatever, and whether that leads to good or bad, I don't know, but I think it'd be fun.
Yeah,
I like a power hungry goblin.
I like the idea of like a goblin walking into a town full of people and being like, I want pants. That's my new goal. That shows that I'm established. I'm getting pants.
Fun fact. The other child character that I wanted to play was a goblin named Biscuit. Biscuit the Goblin, who was raised by they were a goblin necromancer. They are the equivalent of 12 years old in human years. And they were raised by a very old elven couple in the middle of the woods. Like everybody was like, oh, those people, they were like really great mages, and then they retired. I wonder what they're doing. And they are trying to quote unquote civilize a goblin. It wasn't great, but you have a 12-year-old necromancer named Biscuit.
Well, I think we established we all need to play a game with all of these characters we just discussed. I think they might work out.
All being goblins.
Yeah. I'd be down for a goblin campaign. I don't know. That sounds fun. Eric, my DM in my Tuesday night game, I think he talked about it in our other tabletop episode, played like a hobgoblin campaign where they were just hobgoblins that were like sick of being like dumped on by heroes. So they kind of like set out on their own and like established their own like part of the world, like not living in caves and stuff anymore. I don't know. I think that's a fun kind of thing. But again, you probably need everyone to be kind of supportive of that, or like really just also be goblins or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not hard to, like, everybody gets so worried about the statistics and like he only has a +2 to strength, so you can't be a sorcerer or something like that. Like,
yeah,
you can make it work.
Yeah,
you are not restricted specifically to your stats. So
yeah, and that's something I had to learn after a long time. Because like again, when I first started doing this, my characters were the stats first, and they were like I think they were all named Scott because I was like I don't even give a shit about giving them a name. Yeah,
the funnest part.
Yeah. I'm terrible with names and come up with names. Like Chris
I'm
Steele's
pretty
name.
bad too.
Chris Steele's name is because she's a sorcerer. I was like, oh, I'll take crystal and make it a different word.
I love making dramatic, stupid names.
I know.
I'm awful at it, so I have a name generator whenever I DM just in case.
Well,
Valentina's family, all of their names rhyme, and I did that on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, I've done name generator stuff, but like D&D names are so goofy. They're like, I'm never going to even remember my character's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually go through like a million of those. And I'm like, whatever. I think that's where I got her last name, Merriweather, from, was like an elf thing. I'm like, I can remember that.
Thank God I DM with Harry in the campaign.
Yeah.
Because he takes extensive notes. Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Well kept.
I really wish Harry was able to make this episode, but
I use the random name generator, and then 2 sessions later, I'm like, and I'm like texting Harry on the side, like, "Hey man, can you please tell me what this dude's name was? Because I don't remember it all."
We had a character named like Narina, I think, who was part of a group of sirens, and her name was Narina, and I think it just evolved over me just forgetting things into Narnia. Sometimes names.
Yeah, sometimes your players do it too. I have every session I say a name and then it turns into something else. Advir was Advil.
yeah.
There's so many, but I can't remember anyone else off the top of my head. But that one sticks out.
Yeah. Well, Tim, you've read the Song of Fire and Ice stuff. So like one of the things, because there's a million characters in that, but one of the things that really helps me with that series, and I try to bring this to D&D now, is like everyone has a nickname.
Yeah.
So those are generally a lot easier to remember. So like, again, we're kind of lucky in B's game. One of the characters' name is Jasira, so I just call her Jess. One person's name is Zarina, so we either call her just Z or just Rena. But that name's not too hard. They're very proper. They call everyone by their full name, so they always call me Chris Steele. But like, when I introduce my characters, like call me Chris. Like, just because that's easier to remember.
Yeah, I think it's
less
good,
to type. Yeah,
it's good though because it encourages people to kind of get into referring to the character and being friendly and like that kind of thing. So it
helps like facilitate role playing in that regard too. You know,
which is not easy for a lot of people. So.
Oh no, it's terrible for us.
Yeah.
I've noticed the best people have like a theater or improv background. And I know you have at least an improv background, B.
At least 4 years that I can remember. Which is why I'm very bad at planning, and I'm very glad that I have all that improv, because last year I ran a Halloween one shot, and I was like, okay, even if things go, in the complete opposite direction, it's going to be fine. And I had all these things planned on one half of the neighborhood, and they stayed in the spot that they started at. And I was like, I need you to go to the left. I need you to go to the... Okay. I'm going to improvise a boss fight over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
and you walked 5 feet because I said you did, and you found this.
Yeah. They were like, that seemed way too easy for a boss fight. My boyfriend was being so nice. He's like, no, I know you. That wasn't the end. I'm like, it is 1:00 in the morning. It is now November 1st, and I just improvised an 1.5-hour boss fight with an eldritch god. Let me go to bed.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like, I've done some DMing in our Discord group. We have a channel for like non-canon stuff. So basically, like, whoever's around, if we just want to do something real quick, we can kind of just, like, the very first thing we did is I went in there and as my character was just like, fight me, and then we fought. We all fought each other because we haven't gotten to do that in the main game. Let's fight anything. And then we kind of pulled back, and our characters were just playing a video game. And I was like, that's fun. And then
that was really cute.
I did an adventure based on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but like I didn't plan anything. I was just like, well, here's the part where we get to Chocolate River and there's a boat, and they're all like, we're not getting on the boat. I'm like, no.
I know what happens here.
Yeah, so you know what happens. So I made one of the imps I had be the Oompa Loompas just knock my character into the Chocolate River, and they had to go save it. So they went on it, and they're like steering it. And like, all right, you got him. I was like, all right, now do some wisdom saving throws to see how much psychic damage you take. All these horrific images enter your mind. But that one was a lot of fun. Just translating that stuff into D&D experiences. Like, I had like this cavernous, like, so they were in like this abandoned factory that these like imps took over and kind of like magically terraformed. So there's like parts of like jagged crystal like caves that like cause parts where you float. So it's like the part with the fizzy lifting drinks and things like that. But like I didn't plan that. I just was making that up as we went. In fact, we almost TPK'd at the end where I had the bad guy like shrink you, like Mike TV, and then we all failed our rolls, and we were all like 6 inches tall. I'm like, we're surrounded by like tons and tons of monsters. I'm like, we should all be dead. That kind of BS'd our way out of that because that's no fun, even in a like non-canon thing. But like, you know, I again I improvise and like try to go by what the players want to do and react to things. That's why I really want to play something like Monster of the Week, where if you DM, like, you only get to do things in response to what players do and roll. And I think that's a fun, because I like to do this as collaborative storytelling. I think that's
It
where
is a learning.
Yeah, and I think that's where the
Yeah, it's a
characters
learning
get real
experience for both.
interesting and kind of come alive. You know?
Yeah. It works on the positive aspects of role playing in general for both parties. So it encourages the DM to be very quick and very flexible, and it encourages
also,
the players to push that.
And also, if the players come up with something better than what you came up with, which they usually do, you can just kind of roll with it and be like, yeah, that was always the plan. In my experience, at least. Maybe I'm a bad DM.
No, it just, sometimes you play with people and they're like, I'm going to do this. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's not how, what? That's not how anything works.
Oh, that dragon that killed me, I did not want to, I was very vocal about like, let's not confront this. Because that was an optional thing. I was like, we don't have to do this. Let's just leave.
Yep.
Because my character is very much not combat in that game. That's a character choice. Like he's a thief. He's not like an assassin kind of rogue. But of course, I'm the one that gets like hit with a breath weapon and just explodes.
Nope. The turtle.
No, did you get hit too?
No, the turtle worshipped the Earth Father and the Sea Mother, and he was corrupting the Earth. So
yeah,
I was one of the ones like, nah, that thing's gotta go.
Yeah, and then our paladin was like, well, it's evil. I have to kill it. I'm like,
Yep.
Well, you guys can go do this. But since I'm the charismatic talking one, because that's my character's thing, is he's supposed to talk his way out of situations. We had this whole plan where we were going to like distract this dragon, like with this fake offering. Well, it was a real offering. We found this dragon cult and just kind of took care of them and like took their robes and stuff and were like pretending to be them. So we're going to try to convince it to leave for this better area, because the whole thing was like not necessarily to kill it, but to drive it away. But it saw through our shenanigans. Oh, it's Venom Fang, since in Fendelver, like he's kind of famous.
Somebody rolled poorly, or I did something stupid.
You might have done something stupid.
I think somebody rolled. No, I think so. I normally do, but I think somebody rolled poorly on that one.
Yeah, I might have rolled. No, because with the breath weapon, I got entangled, and my character's not strong, so I couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And then I got hit with breath weapon. My HP is 28. Oh no, it's 24 because I took 48 damage.
Yep.
So I instantly took over double what my maximum HP is, which is supposed to be instant death, like an unrecoverable death. But like I said, your wife was very nice and let me live. So
not me, man.
Yeah, although because of that,
play a game with me, you're dead.
although after that we did level up, and because I had this magical death, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take an actual level in Bard, and I'm going to explain. I haven't had a chance to cast any spells or anything yet. Like maybe because I had this weird magical death, like I actually have some connection to magic now.
Yeah. And
that's something that Shannon can maybe play in as like a mystery for me later.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part of doing them, though, is like the module is it doesn't allow for a lot of adaptation.
Yeah.
But
again, it depends on your DM. It depends on your group.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
You can kind of BS a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like having pre-made modules as a jumping off point. And it's just for adventures in general, just as a busy adult, like I don't have to sit here and plan dungeons and things.
Yeah, I've been trying to play my own world for like a year now, and it's.
And then whenever you do that, the players never
exhausting.
engage with the way you think they're going to. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My Halloween one shot, actually, I am a big fan of urban fantasy. So what I did was I was like, you know what? I want to run like a horror movie, like a 1980s horror movie one shot. I don't know how to make like a game. So I literally took D&D and I was like, okay, you pick your class, but that also dictates what 1980s high school coming of age stereotype you are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that
Which
sounds awesome.
was very fun. My boyfriend played a paladin, but he played a specific, very new kind of. No. He was a warlock, which meant that he was an outcast character. But he also picked an eldritch god warlock. So it's like Halloween night, and I was like, "Wait, what god do you worship?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, like this really obscure H.P. Lovecraft eldritch god." And I'm like, I got to do some research. Oh god.
Yeah. Yogg-Dabath or something.
Yeah. It was it was actually almost all of the encounters were inspired. I was on a major horror manga kick for like a month before I made it, and so almost all of the encounters are inspired by Junji Ito novels.
Nice.
So they're all terrifying.
I was let's say, like, that's a good segue. Like, what are, because I think we've all done a little bit of DM, we've been behind the screen a little bit. What are some things that the players' characters have done that you did not expect?
Off the top of my head, I just had a character introduced into the story at level 8, I think. He just started. He's in ASMR. So he's essentially like a divine resurrected human-ish thing. And when he resurrected, he fell to earth. He fell right into the middle of battle. They finished the battle. He goes with them. He goes to change armor, and he has a giant seal burned onto his back. No one asked about it. No one told him about it. No one has addressed it since. I handed them the most on a plate piece of story, and no one's bothered to even mention it. So
I hate that so much. I hate when I develop a whole thing and they're like, well, we're just gonna hang out at the bar.
It's why it came to my mind immediately, is because it is very fresh.
Oh.
Well, Kendall, I know in your game you have a very infamous total party kill. It's infamous amongst my groups because I think it was brilliant how you handled it, and everyone loves it. So if you want to tell that story.
Yeah, I guess the characters were like level 3, and I was like getting them ready for just the whole session. They were like planning to fight this one guy, and here's like a big fucking berserk. Sorry, edit that out.
Beep.
A big flippin' berserker guy. Yeah, they like had this whole strategy. They got the city guard involved. So like, and then that character's boss just like was flying away on her broomstick. She was like this hag. It's like, all right, the boss is leaving. Like, I'm setting it up so you can go fight this guy that you've been talking about for and then the ranger's just like, oh, she's flying away. I was like, I was like, roll to see if you hit. Hits. It's like, okay, you're fighting this like powerful hag. She just like land, and I was surprised. They rolled initiative, like everyone went before her, and they came pretty close to like getting her. I was like real surprised, but she has this like magic staff that just like one-shotted everyone.
Oh.
And I was like, what do I do here? I was like, you all are gonna have to give me a second. And then I was just like, all right, I got it. I was like, here we go. I was like, you all black out, and when you come to, this whole city you were standing in is nothing. It's burnt to a cinder. And then I just like ended the session with like their like home base for the foreseeable future, just like nothing. There's like no resources for them. So punishing them a little bit.
Yeah, now you got a vengeance story too. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Scott, are you on mute? I see you moving your mouth.
Yeah, so now they're on. Now they have proper motivation to always go for whatever your story hook is.
Yeah, you want the PCs to do anything at all? Take something from them.
Oh yeah, steal from someone. They will.
Oh my god.
Take their take their socks. Something so meaningless.
Yeah.
They will go to the ends of the earth, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Now you only get to pull this. I think you only get to pull this once, like for real, per group. Because if they see you doing it all the time, they're gonna get wise. But yeah, steal something. Take 5 silver. They have 10, they have like 50 platinum. Take 5 copper.
Steal their hats.
Yeah, something silly like that. Oh my god. They will do whatever you want them to do story-wise. They will get on the boat. Nobody ever wants to do that because they know you're going to have something attack them. Because you're like, I've got this player's book. I got this monster manual. It's got all these aquatic monsters. When am I ever going to use them? Like, when am I going to have an aboleth show up? Oh, you have to go across the sea to do this thing. Like, nope, I'm not doing that.
No, man, I make that commonplace from the get-go.
Yeah.
From like level 2 or 3, usually I'll be like, you now have a ship. It sucks, but you got one and you can go over here. And then like, you give them that false sense of security for a little bit, travel in the sea, no big deal. Let them go back and forth once or twice. And then,
you know, what's a fun DM, not a prank to play on your characters, but if you want to make them more nervous than you need them to be, just roll dice and don't say anything.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody opens something, I'm like, there's a chest. I check it for traps. I rolled a 10. You don't think it's trapped?
Yeah.
I open it and I just roll 10d10. And I'm like, find this.
Every time they get like a perception check that's like under 10, I'm like, yeah, everything seems fine.
Yep.
Everything's great.
Yeah, I like using that verbiage unless they roll high. It's like, to you, it seems legit.
even when they roll high, usually I'll be like, it seems fine. You think it's fine.
But they know because of the high roll, they can probably trust what you're saying.
There is talk in our group actually of rolling blind for perception and insight.
Okay. Yeah, we roll blind in my Tuesday campaign. We play on Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah.
And there's a dice tower that if you roll your dice in that, only the DM gets to see it. Like I don't even know what they are.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of that, like damage and stuff. We've been doing out in in the regular out in public.
Yeah.
Also because it's fun to roll dice and see numbers.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of, like I mentioned it in the beginning, like, this might actually add to role playing. Like you will actually react to things as opposed to meta gaming the crap out of how you play. But I felt bad taking rolls away from them.
Yeah, of course.
So we actually talked about, I have a dice tower in the house. So I talked about setting it up by me. So when you make a perception or insight check, you walk over, you tell me what color your dice is, you put it in, and I'm the only one that can see it.
Yeah, I think that's a fun way to do it.
Yeah, so they can still at least get to roll.
Yeah,
it's not me rolling it, but they don't know.
You should make a really elaborate dice tower that like reaches like all across the table.
So the dice just doesn't even reach me.
Yeah, it'll get stuck in the middle, and you have to hit it. Like
No. Just give it a minute. It takes 30 minutes, but
it's like Dice City instead of Dice Tower. Like.
Yeah. I can't get I do have a lot of trouble getting this group to do what I want them to. They just finished this like sessions long, basically a side quest. It's like they leveled up. I had people changing classes, so they need to like return to the city to like get new gear to collect their reward. Do they go back to the city? No, of course not. That just makes too much sense, right? They're like, oh, what's this? Yeah, we'll go to this town. We'll go to this town, you know?
Just start walking.
Going
Because
back would be the easy way.
I was just like, what? Okay, here we are.
That's when you just start picking up whatever you're doing in the other town and just laying it over that town now. Like
It related to people they already met.
It's too area specific.
yeah.
One thing I like to do as a DM to encourage my players' characters is I like to give them like an overarching goal, like what they want to do with life. Like, I need to get revenge for the man that killed my father, or like I need to make money for this reason or that reason, or like I want to be a hero. Even something simple and corny as that can give us some kind of motivation. I also like to make sure they have a phobia that I can play with later. But I try to come up with try to get characters, but it's good to even get them thinking, even if you don't use them, it's good to think of getting them thinking about character quirks beyond just their stats and like, the backgrounds and things that are in the book.
What I'm doing for the world that I built is I already have a rough idea of how the overarching story is going to go. So this is how stupidly insane I am. I wrote questions to gauge the characters they create, like literal questionnaires that I'm going to hand to them for their characters.
So you basically need to interview for the job of playing in your campaign.
No.
Dedication.
Do you have a relationship with the other players in the campaign? If so, what is it? Platonic? Are they siblings? Are they in a physical relationship with you? How do you know them? Who are you related to in the group? Who are you not? And then like deeper stuff like, do you have any scars? How did you get them? Do you have any link to older magics? Like that kind of thing. Like just feeding kind of like softball questions of trying to get them to flesh out more of the character.
Were you in Fantasy Girl Scouts?
Yeah, sure. Anything to get people thinking about the character more in depth, even if it's just no.
Yeah.
Like
and going off the bat, like with that, like talking about if the characters like know each other, or like in relationships, or like their siblings or something. Because I find like the most awkward part of any game is like the characters meeting each other, or like, do you already know one another? But then like as players and characters, you kind of need to feel each other out. So it's like it's always awkward the first thing you do.
Yeah, the session 0 is huge for that. Yeah. And then like in the questionnaire, it's like, who do you know in the party and who do you not want to know? And obviously that has to be something talked out by everyone. Yeah. But it's good to know where people stand before you start. This way you can kind of gauge your first session of like, this is how I'm introducing people, and it's not just you're in a pub and you heard there's work.
Yeah. So. I think I did too. With the Halloween one shot, I will continue to talk about it as we talk about crazy player things.
Yeah.
Because they just did so there was going to be a party at one end of the block, and like the whole thing was, I was like, okay, they're going to go to the party, and then they're going to, figure out all this crazy stuff. And I gave one of the characters this hook of like, okay, like you are on this side of the street because you're dropping off your little brothers to go to a Halloween party. And I did not plan on him getting really, really emotionally attached to these little brothers because I was like, yeah, there's some minor spooky stuff going on at this house. And he was like, this doesn't seem right to me. And then my boyfriend, my boyfriend did a dumb thing, which ended up being funny, but also threw off the whole game because there are 4 players, and 2 of the players know each other, and they're football players, aka a barbarian. It's a football player and a hockey player, so a barbarian and something else. But they were driving down the street, and they were driving really recklessly, and my boyfriend was like, I'm gonna pop their car tire because there are little kids around. And you know what? They're jerks. I know them from school. They're jerks. So he literally makes their car break down. So they're stuck on one end and then, oh God. And then it was crazy. They couldn't get to the other side. And then they got really invested in this 12-year-old's Halloween party, which did end up having a ritual to sacrifice the adults of the town. But you know what? It was gonna be fine.
Was it though?
It was gonna be fine.
Well, was that not going to happen? And then you're like, well, I need something to happen.
Okay, they were going to be performing black magic, but it wasn't going to be a ritual to an eldritch god.
Yeah. Hey man,
No.
sometimes you gotta yes and. It's like, well, we're stuck here
They're
now.
only 12. They got to start young.
Yeah. Oh my God. Kendall, were you in that one game in high school where like I got thrust into a world that already existed as DM and they were like, it was an evil campaign and all they wanted to do was just kill people. And I kind of, oh yeah, it was you because you wanted to be Robin from Batman.
Oh,
And I just kind of made up a bunch of nonsense happening. Like there was the Church of Galvatron and then they left it and it turned into a transformer and flew away. But I was like, I have no interest in doing this. Like they just want to run around killing everyone. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah, that was my real first D&D experience.
Yes, I remember that.
How did you keep going?
It took years after the fact.
Yeah, 10 years later.
Got the taste out of your mouth finally and started again.
I was just like, what is this?
We were like 17. So.
Yeah, Robin for Batman.
Oh no. Oh, okay. Oh, the first time I played, I was playing in person with a bunch of my friends, and it was my friend and two other people and my friend's boyfriend who was the DM. And I remember like laboring over my character and her backstory and her fancy name. It was great. And she specifically had a very traumatizing past and with fire and stuff. And she was terrified of fire. And can somebody explain to me how we find a nightmare horse in our first game? And then they're like, we are going to tame this nightmare horse.
Okay.
No, and like, we are going to ride this nightmare horse. I'm like, the horse is on fire. I have a phobia of fire. They're like, no, you're going to be fine. And I was like, okay. Oh man, this isn't going well at all.
I stabbed the horse.
But I did have never-ending electric daggers, so that was cool.
Oh my God. So in my barbarian character, this is the worst thing I've ever done as a player and as a character. So we're one of the players is an 8-year-old, and like he found a bunch of like he killed this rabbit and then he found their babies and like there's no way like they're gonna be dead. There's like no way we can take care of them because they're like little like babies, like they're still like suckling and don't have their eyes open.
Couldn't you like bring them to somebody?
Our DM is very much into the world and it's like, well, no one would take care of them. They would just be food. But it was going on from, and like, so anyway, my character just ate them. And it was very
play with this child.
Yeah. I said,
old kid like, Dad, I want a bunny. Too bad.
It's like I said, it's the worst thing I've ever done in D&D. Both at the table, like both like in fiction and out of fiction. So
brutal.
I do feel pretty bad about that. So the kids' characters hated me ever since. Which to be fair, my character wouldn't care. Because he's very much just like, whatever, leave me alone. That's why I need to kind of change his personality. I need to make him a little bit more engaging with the group. Yeah.
I don't tend to play evil ever.
Well, he's not evil, he's true neutral.
Yeah. That's pretty evil. But
I mean, they were going to be dead. We were out in the middle of nowhere. There were no way we were going to get them anywhere. They're going to. Those are the birds, you know, like, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on it too much.
Has anyone played an evil character here?
Not really. Oh, the other real barbarian.
I played one.
The other real barbarian thing I did was I've been doing in that campaign since it's Ghost of Saltmarsh. We're investigating a haunted mansion, and all the players really want to investigate everything. And every single time we do, there is some sort of encounter that happens, and I always die in it because my character just would like bugs would crawl on me, and like you can't get them off. So I'm like, just shoot me with fireballs, just to kill them and get them done with. But at a certain point, I got really sick of it, like my character. So it's just like, all right, going up to the next room, just kicking down the door, going up to the next room, kicking down the door. I'm like, we saw it. There's nothing in here. There's nothing in here. There's nothing in here. My character just got really sick of exploring the house. And so, but like, since I do improvised weapons and stuff, to do less than lethal damage, to get all these bugs and stuff off of people, I would take the door and just kind of like hit them with it. Otherwise, I have my Warhammer, and like I'm not going to hit them with that to not kill them. So I would do like a lot of unarmed strikes and stuff. And like grapples and things.
One of my favorite characters was a unarmed, just brawler.
Mm-hmm.
That had a custom class that the DM allowed. And he would grapple people, push them on the ground, and then just punch them forever.
Yeah, that's essentially what my character does, except he's like 2 feet tall.
No, mine was a Goliath. So
yeah, mine's a gnome.
Yeah. But he was very, very dumb, naturally, because that's what you do. And he would just grapple people, push them to the ground, and whenever he would talk to someone of authority, he would challenge them to a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I got a sheriff's badge, I got a knight's sword, and then something else, because I would just challenge people and then like be like, I'll challenge and I'll give you this and you give me that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's cool.
but he was chaotic neutral. So,
Anything to just not do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
he just did whatever he wanted at the time on a whim.
Yes, winning D&D.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun. Sometimes, do you ever surprise yourself when you're in character, like with what you like say and do? Yeah, it's a weird feeling, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, I'm so deep. Like, where do I begin and they end? Like,
As we like to say, D&D is sometimes just group therapy.
yeah. So I've noticed in a lot of in some of the characters I played, like they're like incredibly brokenly sad, like at their core. I'm like, man, this is saying something about me.
Some of the characters you play, you
Yeah.
put some of yourself in it.
Well,
So,
it's like I've mentioned I've specifically made Christiel to be the opposite of Pip, my barbarian. Like I also in playing them, I tried to make them very different from me. Not so much in like moral alignment and stuff, but like, you know, instead of being asexual, they're pansexual, stuff like that. My original plan was they were going to be a woman, and like, cause that's not what I am. But then, you know, I decided to do trans, which I'm also not. But part of my character's growth in that is now that I have this partner that's accepting of me. I've talked about this with B a little bit. I'm going to start introducing more. My goal is to use gender neutral pronouns for them. And they start seeing themselves more like both embracing their masculinity and femininity. But I want to start incorporating like in their outfits, like both at least one piece of feminine and masculine clothing for each thing. Since my character is a mage, like I don't really do armor, so I can kind of just wear clothes and it doesn't make much difference. We haven't encountered like enchanted items and things yet. That might change, but so eventually we're gonna get there. But like right now, you know, I present very female, very like skirts and high heels and girly and stuff. But you know, I want to start doing some more things, like even if it's just wearing like I wear more pants or something like that, you know. But I think I'm gonna do jackets as my masculine thing. I think that's gonna be cool, like a leather punkish type jacket. I want to do that.
Weed
Let me tell you,
smoking jacket.
Good.
You joke, but
elf
I have a
meat or
smoking
whatever
jacket.
it's
And it's the
called,
best thing I own.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm not judging.
B and I chat about like aesthetics and stuff because you want to be you're a costumer, right?
I really like fashion.
Yeah.
Which
So
actually, Frosira wanted to be a fashion designer before she became a warlock and before she became a baker.
See,
Yeah.
we inject a little bit of ourselves in our character.
but because of that we're talking about things and like I really like you know Kendall, you know we go punk rock, but like I really like that punk aesthetic. It's like, oh, I want to have an excuse to have like a messy mohawk or something at some point. And then I came up with a non-game post-apocalyptic world of ours because our that one elf character whose wedding we ruined and like are rescuing now, they're very goth. So I'm like, oh man,
goth.
they could go for like more of a metal thing. Like, oh, there could be so much cool stuff we could do.
Do each other's makeup.
Yeah, but it's again, this isn't something I planned, but I think my characters become like a singer and like songs become kind of a part of their backstory now. just because we were on a road trip, and I was like, oh, I kind of like, let's, to keep the mood going. I sing a song, and I sang "Moving Right Along" from the Muppets movie. But I sang it like as if it was an Elvish like folk song. But I rolled really well in my performance. So I'm like, oh, maybe we do that. And then we met this traveling group of bards, which turns out they were a siren and were trying to put us under their spell so they could eat our souls.
Oh.
So they were the ones.
In Talia's defense,
Yeah.
the siren was very pretty.
Yeah, and it turns out that's when I think we found out Talia is going to be bi.
Yeah. I don't think I'm capable of making a straight character.
That's
To
fine.
be honest.
Yeah, your world's, I mean this in the nicest way possible. Your world is very gay. It's
Yeah,
almost like
it's
wall to wall,
so-
like lesbian and non-binary like relationships.
There is one
I feel
straight man,
very
and he's awful.
Yeah, I feel very safe playing in your world.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's plenty of worlds already built that are not, so it's
Yeah.
good to have one at least that. Yeah.
No, I like it, especially since I have a character that's trying to experience a relationship that I don't feel for in real life. Which is why I felt comfortable doing that with that character, like wanting to experiment a little bit more. But like I said, I don't think we talked about it ahead of time, but putting our pronouns next to our character names, I mean, that inspired their whole gender thing. And that was been one of their major motivating factors in like doing things. Which is why
I think Fable
that-
did that originally, and then I'm like, oh, well, you know what? That's a smart play.
Yeah. And that was before, I think that's how I found out you were non-binary. It's like, oh, I'm doing they, them. And like, oh, I do those in real life. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think I told you, I was like, I'm so sorry if this is going to be offensive. I was like, I have to do something else if it's going to, I didn't want to make anything weird, but you've been very supportive with all the wacky things I want to do. So
yeah, I think you were quite worried because you kept using she pronouns for Christiel, even though saying they were like, oh, they use they them. And I was like, as somebody who has been non-binary for 2 years and constantly misgenders myself, it's fine. It's incredibly realistic. When it's a new thing, you mess up, even when it's yourself.
Yeah. So. And it just also happened to work out that I picked their name as Chris, which works as both male and female name. That I'm gonna say I planned that because that's too clever for me not to be like I just did that because it happened. But no, I'm really excited. I can't wait to meet the eventual babies I will be having. That I'm a player. I'm aware is happening, but my character is not. I think they're because I also gave them a lot of anxiety and stuff, so that's going to be fun to deal with.
Yep. Even though they keep rolling really good intimidation checks.
Oh my god, my character's like the scariest person, and they're like so like timid, but I just keep rolling extremely well because I have really high charisma. She's
like 6'1" and just like really, really good at bluffing.
Yeah. So I have really high charisma. I did that on purpose because I was like, oh, my character's going to be like, because I'm a sorcerer, like that's part of like what they do. I'm just really weak physically. And then I keep trying to do all these physical things. I can't believe I won that stealth check.
Oh,
or that strength check, rather.
Oh, yeah. They were going to attack the sirens, and they were like, okay, I'm going to tackle the leader. And I was like, okay, roll kind of like a strength roll.
I got a 1.
No, you got a 2, and
I rolled a 2,
1.
and then I have a -1 modifier.
Yeah, but I got a natural 1. So and then you rolled a natural 20
on intimidation. So yeah, I put my gun to their head and was just like, hey, everyone stand down, and I'm gonna kill them.
Yeah. We're really lucky that a lot of the people in there also really like the leader.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured that might be the case, judging by how they were acting. But I'm kind of hoping we can eventually get beyond that and be friends with them, because I think a traveling band of bards would be a fun recurring thing. I basically kind of...
Who doesn't want that?
I kind of gave them the option, like, hey, reform your ways, or if I find out you don't, we will just murder you. But then, I made it so, like, my other players that were with us were like, see, I'm putting on this strong thing, but I had my hands behind my back and they could see him shaking. And then as soon as we left, like, my character kind of collapsed and they had to kind of help me get back to our wagon, because that was like a really
beautiful caravan
thing. Yeah, that was a really nerve-wracking thing. But like, I made my character pass out when I had to cast the levitate spell to escape the wedding, because they got so overwhelmed with anxiety from casting spells because of the surge. Fortunately, it was like the most benign thing. I made our paladin like slightly more scary looking. So we were able to just.
She
escape
got like
here.
5 inches taller.
Yeah,
She's
it's the
like,
same thing
"Oh,
I made
well,
my
I
character.
mean, this is fine."
Had hit before. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, again, there's an option for exploding, so it could have been really bad.
You're worried.
But that's the only time I cast a spell. I did talk to you and was like, hey, can I at least do Mage Hand just so I have some utility in doing things? Because I was feeling like I couldn't do much. But that was because I made a character that wouldn't cast spells, a spellcaster.
And canonically, she's been working with a professor at what are the words? Spell magic.
Yeah, I've been
Magic
working to try to get
University.
it under control. That's my character's whole thing, so I can eventually go back home. But
Who knows?
yeah, I don't know if I'd even want to at this point. But
Right?
I
You
mean,
got
I want
kids
to
now.
not be a danger to the people around. My character wouldn't want to be a danger to the people around them. So they're still gonna have to work at that anyway. It's getting late, so I think it's another 2-hour episode just about. Unless there's any other character stuff you guys want to get into that we didn't have a chance to yet.
I'm doing thumbs up, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
I would like to do like actually building a character at some point, but that would be another whole nother podcast. So
listen, if people demand it, I'm looking for excuse to play more in D&D. We can do a side podcast, or maybe we can even do it as like live streams where a couple of us get together, we'll build our characters, we'll play some games, and see how it goes from there. If we do it, it'd be fun to do it live. I might be able to come up with some way to have some fan interactions, and maybe you can affect some of the events in the game. That might be fun.
that'd be neat.
I know a D&D podcast that does something where the people in chat can help with roles. I will send that to you.
Yeah, let me know about that. I'll check that out. I still have to watch listen to Critical Role at some point, but
I prefer to watch, but you can do either.
yeah.
There are a few things that I had to overcome character-wise, but other than that, like as they were going, I feel like it just got better and better. And the first campaign was a pretty incredible story they built. So
Yeah, the Adventure Zone's like that. You should listen to that at some point. It's really good, especially considering it's a comedy, so it's really goofy. But like, man, by the end of Balance, you care about what happens to these goofy characters.
yeah,
Since in the beginning, like none of them really played D&D, so they don't really know what they're doing. So their characters were just stock characters.
Yeah.
But then they really became their own thing.
I think that's a big part of why I like Critical Role so much, is I never expected to care about characters that somebody else made like that.
Yeah.
So,
I remember where I was when very dramatic things in the Adventure Zone happened. Until like a month ago, I was 100% going to get the Adventure Zone tattoo. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The other campaigns they've done are okay. I'm not a big fan of the current one, just because Travis is DMing, and I don't think he's a great DM. He likes to take away a lot of player agency. And as an asexual person, one of their characters is Ace, and they keep kind of like jamming this relationship down his throat. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't like that. Also, as a DM, like, or a player, I'm like, give the players like their agency. Like, he's very much telling his story. Like, they're not being as collaborative as they usually do. But it's not like bad. It's still fun to listen to, but I don't like it nearly as much as their other two big campaigns. Some of their live
Which
shows
were both DM'd by Griffin, I believe.
Yeah, and some of their live shows are amazing. There's a whole reason we did Dadlands. It's the one that they came up with. After listening to that live show, we had to do that. Oh yeah, Kendall was one of our players in that. If you
oh my god!
Yeah,
Badlands, so cool. I own 3 fanny packs that I wear unironically.
Because you're supposed to play that with fanny packs.
Oh.
But yeah, and Kendall's character in that, by all rights, should have died multiple times, but I kind of yeah, he kept getting really bad pulls.
Oh dear.
It might inspire Dadlands too if we get around to that. I do have an idea for a story in that. I might get some different players though, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call this an episode. I love talking D&D, it's nice to not just annoy Becca about it at work all the time about all the things I'm doing in games she doesn't care about. But thank you guys again for joining me. I enjoyed talking to y'all all the time anyway.
Pleasure. I love D&D, so
Yeah.
and it's good to see you guys. So
yeah, of course, it's the whole reason we do this, is to talk about things we want to talk about with people we want to talk about them with. And hopefully everyone at home enjoyed this as well. Little bit of a tease for next episode. We're going to be talking the state of Star Wars. Mandalorian will have a season 2. We'll have a first couple episodes out. We'll be talking a little bit about some of the more recent Disney projects with their movies and their cartoons and stuff, the comics, basically how we think the state of Star Wars is. Everyone I know has been begging me to do a Star Wars episode, so it may be a big crew. I might have to figure out some way to barely have people come on. I don't know. Maybe draw a hat out of a hat. But we'll see.
You could do one and then after the fact say it's like the 4th part of a multi-part saga.
It's 4, 5, and 6.
Podcasts.
Yeah. Say we'll start with the middle.
As all series should be.
I can't wait to listen to that. And it's just two groups of people, one that love it, one that hate it, just screaming at each other.
Oh, Tim, the people that are probably going to show up on it. So.
Yeah.
I will say I like Mandalorian season 1. I'm super nervous about 2, but that's coming out soon. So
I have a baby Yoda stuffed animal.
Tim's stepdaughter, I just hired her today. It was her first day. She wears a baby Yoda mask.
The little teacup.
Yeah, with the little teacups or the soup cup. Yeah. She got a lot of nice compliments about that today. So yeah, it's, obviously Star Wars is a big part of any nerd's DNA, and I've done 2 Star Trek episodes with the 3rd on its way before we did one Star Wars one. So it's time to rectify that a little bit. But yeah, so hopefully we'll be recording that in a way. I got to figure out a way to do it fairly, because like I said, everyone I know wants to do Star Wars. But yeah, so I'll do it for us this week. Thank you again for listening to us, and thank you again for everyone, all my guests coming out, Tim, Kendall, and B. Thank you so much for your time. And I love swapping stories about Dungeons and Dragons, especially since Tim and Kendall, we don't get to play together much, at least not much anymore. In your case, Tim, I would love to get Art Simon, my fake bard, and Tim T the Turtle together again.
We should do a one-shot or something too. Get the band together.
Yeah, just to get the juices flowing again.
Yeah.
I've got this character sheet. I should just it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
I have all this dice. So much dice. Oh, please let me use them.
Exactly. You got the dice. You got to use them. But until next time, everyone, be safe.